not that hard. It's too far down. It's up on
radio are not the views and opinions of the station,
Madison
its
Heights and all that
management, or its advertisers.
Yeah, they don't come down
Let's
that
get
far. They
ready
stop
to
at 12.
focus on our issues, our solutions, using our voices on Black Focus Radio.
Welcome to Black Focus, the show designed with our community in mind, where we focus on our issues, developing our solutions, using our voices. Central Arkansas, surrounding areas, and the nation. Get ready. Black Focus starts right now. Phone lines open at 845-525-5683. So here's your host, David W. Coleman and Robert.
Whoa, Nelly Bozo! Robert, were you ever on the Bozo show?
No.
Huh?
They don't let black folks on Bozo.
Yeah, they do.
No, they don't
See?
let black folks on Bozo.
Yeah, they do. I was on the Bozo show. I mean, back
Like
when
I said, they don't let black folks on Bozo show.
we gonna start that already on the new week? Really? And we coming up to Thanksgiving?
Okay.
Oh man.
My bad, Dave.
Well, I was on the Bozo show. I got to play kick the balloon in the bucket, and I didn't win, but it
Whoa,
was.
Nelly Bozo.
It
Okay.
was, I just thought about that because Bozo the original Bozo somewhere came in Ohio. He just died. He was like 82.
Oh, I feel so bad.
Because, every station, most ABC stations had a Bozo. So the guy was the actual weatherman here. Remember, he used to draw Gus. You don't remember that?
I don't really care, Dave. But okay, I know you're trying to start a conversation. Yes, Dave, Bozo was wonderful. I am such a big fan of Bozo.
Are you
He is
patronizing me?
my homie.
Are you patronizing
I
me?
would never patronize you.
So if that would have been a black guy doing Bozo, would that have been whiteface?
He's got issues. Yeah, so we gotta put up with everyday ride. This right here, man. This right here. I'm telling
I'm just saying, man. I'm just asking.
That had been white face.
I'm just saying. Anyway, by the way, want to do a quick shout out. We got Black Flags coming up here in just a moment. We also have a guest in studio, so Robert has to be on his best behavior. I want to give
I see.
I gotta be me, baby. I gotta be me. Want to shout out to Little Rock Central High. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Went up to Springdale this past Friday night for the playoff game, the first one that they've been a part of since 2012. And
Are they gonna have a party for this victory?
well, they didn't win, unfortunately. It was 16-10.
It's hard to beat the big cousins up there.
Well, so I could be real bad, but I'm not. But the point is that every game that I watched, and obviously, we carried all of the home games this year. The games that they lost that I saw were games that they could have won had things went a different way. And even this game was one of those. I thought that they were going to score at the end, and they were going to end up pulling out, and it was going to be 17-16 Central. But it wasn't to be. And I just want to make sure that the people over at Central, Nancy Russo, who's the principal, of course, Eugene McGee, who is the athletic director, and of course, Coach Kent Laster, who is the second-year coach who brought a team that from last year was 1-8-1 to end up being 6-4 for the regular season, ending up the season at 6-5. And all of a sudden, people started turning their heads and looking for Little Rock Central. And that's how it used to be when we were growing up. That's how it was when I played. And I told Coach Thursday evening that, it was a pleasure to cover them this year because each time that I went into that stadium and walked on the field, I had flashbacks of moments of when I played on that field or certain plays that I made. It was a fascinating journey for me, and I want to thank him for the opportunity. Why are you looking at me, dog?
Stop it.
That's why I was having flashbacks, because I got hit in the head a lot. But either way, so I'm trying to get some love to the alma mater, and you trying to dog it out. See,
I'm not dogging it out. I'm dogging you out. There's a difference.
But anyway, so a successful year for the Tigers. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And I just want to remind people is that the majority of that team were juniors.
That's good.
Okay,
That should be good,
and I had spoke to Coach early in the season in an interview, and he basically admitted, we are ahead of schedule. So expect the Tigers to be back next year. and to be bigger and better. And as we like to say, hell to the whole gold, hell to the black. The Little Rock Central Tigers are back, and I love it. Okay, all right. So before we get to our guests, we gotta make the show proper. So we gotta do black facts. You know what I'm saying?
Black fact.
So I like to remind you all, and by the way, if, I sent a link to this to Stephen A. Smith. You all will get that in a little bit. Just hold your breath. But before Emmett Till, 17-year-old Jesse Washington was roasted to death by a white mob and captured on camera for postcards. And before I read this, I want to just describe this picture to you. Jesse Washington is 18 years old. He was lynched in Waco, Texas, on May 15, 1916. And currently the picture that I'm looking at right now is that he's hung from a tree, suspended by a rope, and clearly he's been burned to death. And his legs are not there. It's just up, his body is up to his knees, and his arms are not attached to his body. There's a later picture of Jesse Washington, who after they let him down, and actually now that you see this picture, it wasn't a rope that he was hung on, it was a chain that they had hung around his neck. And now he is in the ash with wood on him like he's fire. Well, he is fire. He's being burned to death. Now, the background of this picture is multiple white people, men, women, children, some in suits, some in ties, some dressed casually, smiling for the camera. As you heard me say, that this particular picture was used, as many others were, for postcards. Okay? So the murder of black boys, George Armwood on October 18, 1933, and Emmett Till on August 28, 1955, by white mobs comprising men, women, and children, stunned well-meaning people, black or white. However, in this piece involving 17-year-old mentally unstable youth Jesse Washington by another white mob on May 15, 1916, will send chills down your spine. And I've seen this picture multiple times, and each time I see it, they're exactly right. I get chills. Not only do I get chills, I get angry. And no, I'm not praying for those mobsters. Yeah, I'm praying that they go to hell. It must be noted that white mobs could level any charge against black men or women and then have others accost him for a just reason or otherwise. So in that spirit, between 1890 and 1920, the report suggests that about 3,000 African Americans were killed by lynch mobs, especially in southern United States, Florida, Georgia, Mississippi, and Texas. James Allen, a BBC documentary, submitted, having been accused of the murder of Lucy Fry, a 53-year-old white woman, whom he served in her household with additional claim of violating her sexually. A mob could let the justice system decide his fate upon being declared guilty by an all-white jury. Someone in the courtroom shouted, "Hang that nigger." And with that, Washington's fate was sealed. The mob had gathered at the back stairs where the jailers were escorting Washington. The account continues that a chain was thrown around his neck and then retrieved by the jailers. He was then hanged on a tree before some 10,000 Waco, Texas white folks. But the ordeal was not over. Allen, who has collected photographic recorded of the evidence of the violence in the South and has encountered horrifying photos of lynched blacks in family albums of ordinary Southern families, revealed that thousands of postcards were made from Jesse Washington's lynching. So, just to close on this note, while y'all are offering thoughts and prayers for people who want your demise, go right ahead. I'm buying more guns. And that's our black fact for today?
I'm the militant one on the show, remember? That's my job. Jeez. Dang, babe.
And if you would like to sponsor Dynamic Black Facts, please do. And if you'd like to give me a black fact that we haven't read on the station, or if you'd like for me to expound more on a black fact that you previously heard, or maybe you'd like me to expound on the black fact that I posted over the weekend about the Ethiopian Bible, which is the oldest Bible. I know y'all don't want to go there with me. Y'all have a nice day. And that's our black facts for today. Hey, Roberto, how you doing today?
Not as good as you, Black. I want some of what you've been smoking. Whatever it is, just give me some.
Nothing, man. Just, having a good time. I get to go in and get my little exploratory surgery this week to see if they're gonna cut my back open again. So I'm really looking forward to that. They might even have to install more titanium, and I might be turning into a cyborg.
My dog.
I'm just saying.
It's a bird. It's a plane. It's Black Day.
That's right. And and I watched Terminator 3 last night too. Boy, I'm ready. All right, let me quit acting the fool. All right, we got guests in the studio today, and Ryan Davis, who is running for District 34, the vacant seat that the late John Walker, when he passed away so suddenly. So we will talk to anyone on this show that is running for office, Republicans or Democrats. And because we want you on the show, and particularly if you are dealing with issues related to the African-American community, we certainly want, and our listeners want to hear from you as well. So Ryan, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Disregard that opening monologue. Robert is not always that way. He's sometimes a little bit more subdued.
It's me now. Right?
Yeah, it's always you got to cast the blame somewhere. I'm doing a Donald Trump on you here. I'm blaming everybody else. All I got to do now is blame Obama, but I got something for him later on in the show. So talk a little bit about why you're running for this position.
Okay, if I can start, I enjoyed that opening monologue.
Well, thank you very
Yes,
much.
I enjoyed it very much.
Thank you.
As a graduate of Little Rock Central High School.
Hands up, go,
Hands to
baby.
the black, baby. Yeah.
It's about to go down, baby.
So I'm going. In our church, we whenever they have home games, we provide a meal for the football team, and so congratulations to
Wait a
Coach
minute.
Laster.
Are you talking about which church?
Bullock Temple CME Church.
Oh, okay.
Right at the corner.
Oh, so you know my mom.
Do I?
Oh, you can't miss my mom, Miss Coleman.
Oh, Evelyn Coleman?
Yes.
Miss Evelyn Coleman?
Yes.
Oh, man, your mother's a force to be reckoned with.
Oh, I know.
Oh, please.
I know.
You know what I'm saying? I don't even ask how high when she said jumping right. Just keep jumping until she's satisfied.
Yeah. So yeah, we've been members of that church for. Let me just put it this way: we were over on 16th and Cross.
Yeah.
So that's how long we've been members of that church.
Yeah. Your mother has to have.
Well, I should say she has.
The longest record of service in terms of her ministries at the church, probably of anybody. I actually didn't realize when you.
I just realized who you were when you said that. We've met, we've talked.
Okay.
But yeah, I just realized who you were.
Yeah.
So
Your
that's good.
aunt, Miss Cunningham,
Right.
wonderful person. When I would visit with her, I started taking my daughter with me, who's turning 10 today. Happy birthday to Delaney. And so her and Miss Cunningham had for about the last year of her life, had a really good relationship. She still has some mementos from Miss Cunningham.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, your sister, the Reverend Tracy Turner.
Yeah.
She kind of lit me up. I stood up on an occasion. She kind of lit me up deservingly. So I love your family.
Well, thank you.
Look at that.
Thank you.
Look at that.
Thank you.
That's what's up. That's what's up.
Thank you.
Man, but speaking of that, I think about of course your aunt, Mrs. Cunningham, your mother, Mrs. Evelyn Coleman, live in District 34, and as I think about the kind of layout of that district, the district is really oddly shaped. The bulk of the district begins, at Chester, goes west all the way to around about Borough Park, south of 630, spills over to Stiff Station a little bit, comes down a little bit past Roosevelt, but mostly stays above Roosevelt, kind of dips in and out around Daisy Bates. And then it jets out on a little piece of a limb all the way down 630. So I was having a discussion with somebody. They were saying, District 34 is a food desert. And I say, that's true. That's true, but it's only partially true because the bulk of District 34 is a food desert. But I think a lot of folks don't realize that Whole Foods and Trader Joe's are in District 34. So I think one of the things that I like to campaign on is the fact that the fates of Western and Eastern District 34 rise and fall with each other. And we've done a poor job of investing in the eastern part of District 34. The western part of District 34 is not a reflection of the lack of opportunity in the eastern part of District 34. Where I live, right at the corner of 19th and Summit, I got a job, I got health insurance, we got a car, so I mean, I can get up and I can drive, all the way to a good grocery store. When I can't find it here or there. But for the most part, the most of that district is a food desert. There's a level of poverty in the district, but I think even bigger, there's a poverty of opportunity, there's a poverty of investment in the district. And, I see that with the kids that I work with at Very Little White Children International. Been doing this work, they have rather been doing the work for 25 years. And, we continue to Band-Aid over some of the biggest problems in that district. We see in about the middle of that district, you begin around about Woodrow, going west to University Park, we see some of the highest crime rates in the city. And, much as we want to kind of put that on the laps of individuals, I blame I blame government certainly. I blame the lack of a social fabric being built in that community in ways that it's been built in other parts of the community. But my platform in general, it's health, education, empowerment, justice, bread and butter. And that's what I want to run on in the entire district.
So when you talk about, give us some specifics on some of the things that you want to do, and how will that affect change in that those areas what you spoke about?
Yeah. And I'll say this, I think a lot of times folks who are running as Democrats, operating within with the super majority of the Republican Party, that he seem to care about his own people, let alone about people in general. Not to say that the Democratic Party's done a much better of a job, but anyhow, that's for another day. But as far as this education agenda, I believe, number one, in local sovereignty, where you don't have an appointed board of people deciding the fates of the children in your district. We see here in the city of Little Rock, the State Board of Education has done a very poor job not only of communicating and being transparent about what it wants to do, but about doing anything in general. And I think it's really shameless. And I think that we need to pull the levers.
Well, they are sending out sports tweets during board meetings.
Yeah, that's that's the part that kind of disappoints me the most. If I can go ahead and say this, I know what show I'm on. But let me say, the black folks on the board, on the State Board of Education, are completely disappointed. You put that on top of the fact that the other black person on the State Board of Education, I'm not going to call nobody's name, but she,
Don't call nobody's name, right?
she, the other black person, the last board meeting, October 10th, she walked back in the room and got ready to vote on something, and then midway between saying yes, said, wait a minute, what are we voting on? And then then the other black person, he, is in the board meeting.
He said, don't worry about this. Oh, yes. We got to get a check after this.
I don't understand it. And I mean, I'm not one of the folks who, I'm not going to go ahead.
Did he send his kids to private school or public school?
Man, stop. Don't dog it. Private, though.
Oh, I was just wondering. Okay, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's time to call people out, man.
You know what? I'm always accused of calling people out. I don't really call people out. It's just the stuff you do. I ain't got to call you out. People see it, right? I mean, Ryan makes an excellent point. Fitz and I can't
See, I didn't even call her the names. How did you know that? How did you know that?
I just can't think of her name now, but I mean, I've seen them a couple of times, and I thought to myself, you have to be, So this is the thing I'm gonna say real quick. So I always equate this to Bruce, right? And you when you're a black man in a position like that, right? You gotta really walk a tight line because you don't want to come off to black folks as being Uncle Tom, and you don't want to come off to white folks as being Malcolm X,
I
right?
don't think they're concerned about that, about looking like a... first thing.
I have to think.
Yeah.
I have to think that a brother who grew up the way Bruce grew up and who's done the things he's done, you gotta feel that to some degree, right? I just want to think that because I know it's really hard, honestly. I think to try to navigate both worlds, right? Because it's kind of like you need to do what's right, but doing what's right ain't really gonna give you job security, right? So you gotta find that happy balance. I mean, you gotta find a happy balance, man.
Yeah.
Dave's like, hell no. No, seriously, Dave. You see, this is the crazy thing, Ryan. I get criticized for being like this polarizing cat who says the unthinkable and does the unthinkable. Unfortunately, I don't do a lot. I don't say a lot. The stuff I say is true. It's not like I'm lying on anybody. Now, here you got Dave over here, who Dave is considered to be the really mild and meek one. But he just said earlier, I'm buying more guns. Now, if I had said that,
Second Amendment.
if I had said that would have been an outrage.
I'm
man.
just taking on their personality. They like guns. I like guns.
Well, I like guns too.
Okay,
but
I'm just saying.
But my point is,
And AK-47s are good for me.
all right, man, we got Ryan. Let's get Ryan time, man. Jesus, you trying to have a whole nother show? Stop.
I'm just saying. They had another shooting at Walmart this morning, by the way.
Hey,
Just saying.
somebody who folks probably these days would think was meek and mild mannered, Ida B. Wells. She said that a Winchester rifle should have an honored place in every black home.
Exactly.
Every black home.
So next time they come up with a buyback gun program, don't go.
Jesus. They use the money they buy back
Hey,
to get a better gun.
They just found a gun in Chicago that was from a buyback program that killed somebody.
Wow.
I had to give my guns to my mom. Man. I
Okay.
couldn't have them with me no more. I had to give them up. Man. I had to de-gun my truck. I couldn't have a gun in the truck no more. I had to de-gun it, man. I had my Benella in the back seat. I had my 380 in the front just in case. And man, you get to that point, man, where you just be riding around. And I think one night I was actually riding looking for trouble. I was like, dude, you got problems. You need to take all this stuff out your truck. Because you get like that, man.
Yeah,
That's why I don't watch those videos. I don't do none of that.
You
man. I'm done with all
can't
that.
let the world control you like that. You have to.
I
pray.
like freedom.
You have to pray
I
more.
like freedom. I want to be free.
You have to pray more. And
I ain't
offer
ready to
thoughts.
die yet.
You
Do what?
got to offer more thoughts and
Oh,
prayers.
Jesus. See you Ryan, come on, let's talk to Ryan. Because you trying to start something. I'm not even going to do this with you today. I'm not going to do this with you, man.
Ryan,
trying to start trouble.
I'm not. I'm
There
just.
you
I'm
go. Come on,
just.
can we talk to Ryan?
I'm trying to ask him a question. Yeah. Ryan, what do you think about this? The governor of Arkansas.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, okay, that's a good. Okay.
Well,
Okay.
I think at this point he's a lame duck. He's never running for governor again.
So he got no incentive to do nothing.
But he will preside over another legislative session in the beginning of 2021.
Right.
And so what I think is that we need more independent-minded folks who can't be swayed by hopes of personal gain to be elected to the state legislature. So that there can be a challenge. I mean, that's the part of what I think of as a radical democracy. Not folks who are going into the legislature for their own aggrandizement to get titles. And I'm not suggesting any particular people.
Right.
Folks who go in there with some principles already, who go in there with some ideas already, who go in there ready to pull the levers of democracy and put something on the table. And not folks who are ready to fold at the first sound of the trumpet. And so, I mean, to be honest with you, I don't think about the governor.
Okay.
One of the things I want to ask the governor to do on my first day is to ask him to declare a moratorium on all death penalties in the state of Arkansas.
That's what's up.
So it's funny, you must have read my mind because one of the first things I was going to ask you, what would be the first thing you do if you are elected to this, other than the moratorium of death penalty, what are some of the other things that you would want to put at the top of your table?
I put right back before the Education Commission for them to study how schools are funded. They refused to do that in this past time, but I would like to ask for them to do that again because before Mike Huckabee was a lunatic, he was a governor that did preside over the final parts of the Lakeview case, which said that we are bound by our state constitution to fund every school equally. And I think about, where my wife is from in Lee County, and, I think about the inequities there, all over the Delta. Well, here in Little Rock. But I think about the fact that, for instance, they require, in order for you to get the lottery scholarship, you have 2 consecutive years of a foreign language. At one of the schools there in Lee County, they had a TFA, Teach for America person in there teaching Spanish. That person left for a year. So if you were a junior, and you took Spanish that year, you couldn't get it that second year. So you automatically ineligible for the lottery scholarship. That's an equity issue to me. Right? You don't even have the option to fulfill these particular requirements. Whereas I imagine this new high school they're getting ready to build out in West Little Rock, they probably gonna have German, Spanish, French, Chinese, Arabic, and just every opportunity in the world to fulfill some requirements that everybody doesn't have access to. And I think that's kind of a very plain fairness issue. So I'd like to ask that. I'd like to ask our state to invest more money in experiential education. And that's you all are maybe familiar with the Pfeiffer campus, what they do out there. One of my mentor friends, Sanford Tallett. This is not all classroom stuff. This is getting kids outside of the classroom. And experiential education ranges from everything from teaching kids about finances to how to manage money in general, to teaching kids how to prepare a meal for themselves. Teaching kids just about the world around them, so that we're not sending a whole bunch of ignorant kids out here into our cities and into our state. The city of Little Rock did a very comprehensive study about youth and young adults. This is some years back, and even though we haven't really seen kind of what was going to come out of that, I think the study itself was important because what it showed is that a lot of young folks between the age of 16 and 25, those are the ones who are building criminal records. Those are the ones who are walking around here without any type of marketable skills. And so we need to use the levels of state government. Here's what I think. A budget is a moral document, and our budgets have been immoral for entirely too long because we've invested in the wrong things. When I was growing up, and you all probably remember this, I'm sure, they called Arkansas the land of opportunity.
That was a long time ago. You remember that, don't you, Robert?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're funny.
And then I guess they understood how foolish it sounded considering how poor Arkansas was, how few the opportunities were, and how many people were leaving the state. And so they changed it to the natural state. They're like, we still got trees, so we just call it the natural state.
Right.
But I still think that if we do this correctly, if we do this with an idea about what kind of future we want as a state, Arkansas can still be the land of opportunity. But we got to understand, as part of my health agenda, understanding that we've had a decline in the coverage of children in healthcare since 2018. The biggest decline since 2010. I think kids should be automatically, if they meet the income requirements, instead of making folks do piles and piles of paperwork every 6 months, every 18 months, every year, I think kids should be automatically enrolled in the state-sponsored health insurance. Regardless.
I agree.
And that includes access to dental care. The organization I work for, we have a dental clinic inside of Wakefield. It was at one point the only school-based dental clinic in the region. And we still find that a lot of kids, they have a primary doctor, but very few of them have, a dentist that they go to on a regular basis. And I know that's just kind of a thing we have to, get people used to doing. But also combined with that, Arkansas has the 3rd fastest growing Hispanic population in the nation. And so that means that you have a lot of Hispanic kids, so-called undocumented kids who are also not covered. And I think that these are folks who are very likely going to stay in this state all the way up into and through adulthood. And there's no reason to be spiteful about, giving them health care because we disagree with how they got here.
Right.
Because we still talking about kids.
They still got to eat.
They still got to eat.
Still got to eat.
Still got to eat.
They're going to get sick.
We still want them to show up to school healthy. We want everybody to have the correct vaccinations. And, it just doesn't benefit our state to be spiteful in that way. But as far as my justice agenda, I think it's very simple. We want to end prison slavery, want to end the prison industrial complex in this state, end private prisons, because private prisons have their duty is to make more money.
Right. Profit.
Their duty, yes, indeed. And the only way they can pay their shareholders is they get more people in prison. So we don't need anybody who's interested in imprisoning more people in our state, running the lives of the people who are in prison.
Okay, let me. I got a couple real quick for you. So I love you touched on the education piece. I've been talking to everybody about adequacy because I don't think. Well, let me go back. The first question I want you to tell us is I want you to talk to us a little bit about the way schools are funded currently and what you'd like to see, if you have an idea of what you'd like to see a change to, give us that and talk to us a little bit about adequacy. We've talked about the adequacy thing, but I don't think people really understand the impact of what's been happening for the last 20 years. Because I don't want people to think it's just a Republican thing.
Right.
Democrats does not
Right.
properly fund education either. So let's have the conversation. Kind of give us in your opinion, kind of give us a little insight on the impact of not funding quality education, but kind of funding mediocre education.
You know, I think it's sad that we operate from the perspective of bare minimums. We figure like, you know, all the schools got lights on, kids that can eat lunch, they got some books, they got some teachers, we're good to go. We send them there and, you know, nobody's dying. I mean, we're all good. And I think, you know, scarcity is a myth. You know, scarcity is a myth created by people who got it all.
Right.
Who don't want nobody else to have it.
Right.
Especially when we're talking about education. So, you know, like adequate to me means like, you know, just enough. And I don't think we need to be educated with an eye toward adequacy. Number one, we need to get rid of the state mandated test that no other state in the union even uses. And it doesn't even connect with the curricular standards that we decided we had. It doesn't make any sense to me. You know, we have these standards, but the test we're putting out there to judge ourselves by does not even connect with those curricular standards. Right. So, I mean, that's just stupid. I mean, they can just get rid of that tomorrow, get another standardized test, but then pull back on the emphasis on standardized tests. Right? There's no other developed nation in the world uses standardized tests to determine whether or not the kids are smart enough or the schools are good enough. Right? And I get it. We're not Norway. We're not Japan, anything like that.
But we are capitalist America.
But we are capitalist America. You know, it's funny. Somebody was saying like, you know, Americans have the lowest education, but the best opinion of themselves.
The best opinion of themselves. That's it, right there.
We love ourselves.
We love ourselves, man.
You know, we can't spell well, whatever.
Nah, who cares?
You know, so you know, I think that there has to be an equity formula for when we are funding schools.
Okay.
You know, like let's admit that we've been using some of our state dollars to fund segregation academies in places like Lee County, in places like Marble. Pulaski Academy is a segregation academy.
Okay.
Right. So we've been using, I mean, you know, allowing folks to use, you know, some form of voucher, you know, to fund those schools. And let's also admit that, you know, if we're using the property tax formula, some places don't have, just not enough people owning property in those places for the property tax formula to be good enough to do that. So I do think that there are some schools that need to be funded at a higher level than some other schools. Like, you know, Forest Park doesn't need more money than Chico does, right? Dunn Roberts doesn't need the same amount of money as Stevens does.
Right.
You know, those schools need, and people keep on talking about wraparound services, and it's just a buzzword everybody's using. Everybody, oh, you know, they need wraparound services. But what does that mean? That means we need social workers in the school. That means we need comprehensive after-school and out-of-school programs. And I mean, no matter what, folks, I had a conversation, and the guy was like, well, you know, what about the parents? When does the responsibility fall on the parents? And I get it, because in an ideal world, every parent would be perfect and they would be giving their kids the best. Mm-hmm. But
the assumption is, and what irritates me about David Coleman is that David sits there and he makes the assumption, it's like saying all parents don't want their kids to succeed.
Right.
I mean, there are a ton of parents who want their kids to succeed. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, we're talking about parents who went through the same damn school district that their kids are now into, right? And these parents have anxiety. They want their kids to be successful. How they get them there? You know, I made this point, I'm gonna make it again. I talked to this lady who had moved here from Louisiana, right? She got pregnant early, right? And so her idea of her kids having an opportunity to be successful was to create a stable home environment because she never had one. Mm-hmm. You get that, right?
Right.
She felt she felt in her heart that she would have been successful had she had a house that she could have stayed in the whole time and not kept moving around till she got pregnant by the guy she eventually left with and he beat the hell out of her, right? Mm-hmm. So her vision was, okay, the school's in place and the school's gonna provide everything my kid needs. It's my job to make sure he's got lights, to make sure I put something in his stomach, to make sure I put clothes on his back, right? And then I send him to this building where they're gonna take care of him and they're gonna help him succeed because I'm giving him what I didn't have, so he should be successful. You get that? Right. And so Dave and other bougie brothers like Dave, they don't understand that, right? They think that these parents just don't give a damn because the parent doesn't go to the school every day. My mother never, I don't ever think she ever went to a PTA meeting. But if I got in trouble, she took out from work and came, right?
Yeah.
I think she came to 2 of my basketball games. My mom worked. She had 2 kids. She was a single mom. So, yeah, everybody makes, it's kind of like this. We've gotten to the point now that we're taking the words that other people have used against us, and now we're using them against ourselves.
Yeah.
Well, you gotta have parents involved, and the parents ain't involved, the kids don't mean nothing. Well, my thing is, do we sacrifice the kid because of the parent? I'm done. To you, Dave. No, like Dave to me. Dave, your thoughts.
Well, my thoughts are quite concise, and that is that parents do have a responsibility. And number one, you don't pay teachers enough to be mama, daddy, and babysitter. All right. The problem with it right now is teachers are having to do all of that, and nurse and guidance counselor. Let me throw that in there as well. At some point, you have, if we want our schools to be successful, then we have to empower our teachers to teach. That should be the only thing that they are there to do. But unfortunately, we don't have those wraparound programs. When I went to school, we had a guidance counselor. Now you might have one in 2 different schools. We had a nurse. That nurse might show up once a month. Our nurses were there every day. Okay,
But that ain't got nothing to do with the parent,
but my point being is that the teacher is having to do all of that now. Okay, and grade papers and teach little Johnny and all those other things. But the parents have a responsibility as well, because if they were more involved in a school, you don't have to go to every PTA meeting, but certainly you ought to call that teacher up and say, hey, I'm little Johnny Superstar's mama. I support you 100%. But when little Johnny Superstar gets in trouble, you go up there and go off on the teacher. We know that's real. Okay, so everybody has a part to play. You got to make sure that little Johnny is getting his homework. The teacher can't do that. He can certainly assign it, but when little Johnny comes back the next day and doesn't have homework, regardless of why it's that way, that's not the teacher's fault. That's the parent's fault. Now then you could say, well, maybe it's society because of the economics and they got to work and all those other things. You just say it. Look where you're sitting right now. Your mom very seldom came to anything that you did. My mom did.
So what you're saying, had she not came out on a real radio show,
Well,
not sit here with you.
Quite possible. Exactly. You might own a building downtown. You never know.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's
How
what I'm
much-
saying.
how much better I could have
See what I'm saying?
Had she came. Okay.
But my mom came to all of my college games. She couldn't.
And you're still here with me.
Well, I've been away, and I don't know why I came back, but that's another story. She all came to all of my games. She participated. She was a single mother. She had 4 children. You know, all of them wasn't great. Let's be realistic about that. But it depends on what you want. You know, people make
But
fun
you
of me.
keep doing it, Dave.
But
You keep
no,
doing the same thing.
but see, maybe I'm a little different because see,
Maybe
there were some tough times
Maybe you're
in-
a little bougie.
I could be bougie.
Just admit you're
But
the
you know what? When I was
aristocrat.
growing up,
You are the black
we
aristocrat.
hardly had a television. When it went off, it was off for a while. My mom was a single parent. But you know, I was talking to a friend this past weekend. You know how I got so learned? I read. I was traveling around the world before I even got my first trip. Now, what I'm saying to you is that even though we grew up a little tough as well, although we were in the house, we weren't in the projects, all my friends were in the projects.
Why are you talking white, Dave? You talk so white.
I'm not talking white. I'm speaking. Thank
You
you,
talk so
because
white.
this is my trade. I do radio. I've only fed my family for 35 years. But you digress. Now, may I finish?
Go on, Dave. Go on, be white if you want to.
My point being
White it up,
is
dog.
that we all have to take responsibility for what's going on in our community. That even includes investing dollars, okay? We can't sit up and say, oh, the problem with the black community is we don't spend dollars in the black community, if we won't say the problem with black kids in school is parents are not spending time at school. It's the same thing. It's the exact same thing. If we want to change our communities, then it is up to us. Nobody can save us from us for us but us. Okay? And the government ain't gonna do a damn thing for you. Now they have a responsibility, but it begins with us. So guess what? If little Johnny ain't doing well at school, well, maybe the church ought to be open so little Johnny can come get some tutoring. Okay? Because there are tons and tons of teachers in churches across this city. If little Johnny can't eat, maybe the church ought to have a 6 o'clock dinner so little Johnny and his kids and his brothers and sisters can come eat. And guess what that does? They show up at church, Then they've got mentors. You know how I know that? Because that's what that church he just talked about did when I grew up, Bullock Temple. Okay?
Well, you know what, and that's a part of what I call my common sense agenda. That, you know, the state government really needs to start incentivizing collaboration and cooperation. I think about the fact that, you know, right in what I think of as a campus, you have a middle school, Dunbar, a public library, a city-run community center, a publicly funded community garden, and an elementary school in an unbroken place, no traffic in between. And yet they don't really coordinate programs. I don't mean this as a
That's an excellent point.
But I mean,
Yeah.
you know, how can the state incentivize collaboration? Are there block grants that the state can bring to bear to say, if you collaborate with this many partners within this type of area, you know, then we can you know, afford you these opportunities, right? I think about the fact that the public library has this Be Mighty program, and it's a program whereby there are a couple of vendors who through the USDA provide, you know, dinner and snack. Like at the children's library up at you know, off of 12th Street.
It's basically the summer food feeding program.
Pretty much. But they do it, you know, throughout the school year.
Yeah.
And their issue is how do we get kids over here? When they closed down Franklin, you know, a lot of those kids went to Stevens, and so, you know, they can't really. But I'm thinking to myself, Madison Heights of Harlem is right across the street. It's almost 200 kids, 200 elementary age kids who live over in Madison Heights, right? And so, and then there's a church right between you all and them. And then there's a zoo right up there that has children's programs.
Right. And the library.
And the library.
The Hillary Clinton Library.
Yeah, and that's the one I'm talking about. That has the food. There's a university right down the street that has education students, health education students, and social work students. So why aren't we collaborating more? And what can the state government do to make this happen? And I get it. Sometimes it seems like spoon feed, but I think, like, you know, if we want to invest in, you know, the best things for our children, then sometimes maybe we do need to spoon feed folks this. Not out of interest for babysitting grown folks, because, you know, I think that's not in our best interest, but out of the interest of, you know, making sure that despite the laziness and the raggedness of grown folks, kids get what they need.
Right.
You know.
Right, David.
Well,
but you know what? I agree. I mean, I grew up on High Street before it was Martin Luther King, and you know, I had a single mother. Matter of fact, you know, we lived in the battered women's shelter for months at the corner of 12th and Battery, which is weird. It was a battered women's shelter on Battery.
On Battery. That's kind of ironic.
I hate laughing at that. Every time I think of it.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
But you know, there. So you know, anyway, I was gonna say something else, but anyway, you know, from there. But my mother. So I mean, it's not like I grew up with, you know, the best eyes in the world, but I did have a mother who was concerned, who made sure that I wasn't looked over.
You had a what?
A mother.
That was what?
Concerned.
That did what?
And who made sure.
See, he's trying to make a point.
Oh, okay.
And listen, I'm not disagreeing with you, Cat.
By the way, you grew up in an era, and you decided at some point in the growth, your growth, that you decided, because we all are the masters of our own fate.
Yeah.
Okay, you decided at some point in your growth that you were not gonna have children and have your children to grow up the way you did, didn't you?
Okay.
Didn't you? I don't mean to put you on spot.
Okay,
That's all I'm saying.
Hold on, Dave.
That's all I'm
Hold on,
saying.
Dave.
And then when you make
Hold on,
that
Dave.
conscious decision, you do things to try to make sure that your children didn't grow up the way you
You
did.
know, I love how we say these things. You know, I can't. I'm a rose that grew out of concrete, right?
No, actually, I didn't. I grew
that's-
out of sand.
Okay, but whatever. My point to you is this, David Coleman, that a lot of us caught a lot of breaks. We had some really good people who were really supportive of us.
Mentors, yes.
Yeah.
You can call them mentors.
Yeah.
You can call them whatever you
Mr.
want.
Tollett, Sanford Tollett,
We just had
Mr.
people-
Talley.
Yeah.
Or we just had people who.
See, I can name those names to him because he knows what I'm talking about.
Okay, great. Dave.
If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here today.
Okay, great, Dave. My point to you
Are
is.
you
is
discounting
that,
me
I'm not
being here
discounting
today?
any of that, Dave. I'm glad you're here because without you, there would be no me.
There would be no Black Focus. Exactly.
You know what? I need to wipe my lips, but I just kissed you. I don't even like.
Oh, that
Gotta wipe my
tastes
lips.
like
But listen,
chocolate.
seriously, the point is that we often have these conversations, man, and I think we often forget, right? None of us are here because we made some conscious choice to be here, right? You got kids out there every day who make conscious choices about not living certain lives who end up living those lives. I don't give a damn what anybody says.
I agree.
Everybody who becomes whatever have access to someone who helped them navigate those waters.
totally agree.
Because there's no way in
totally
hell
agree.
a kid from 22nd and whatever can do it by itself. It's not possible, Dave. You got to have somebody somewhere who says, you know what? I like that cat.
I agree.
I see what he's trying to do. I'm going to help him.
I agree.
Right? because that's what happens. Nobody just decides, you know what, I'm going to go out and I'm going to be rich. Well, hell, that sounds good in theory, but think about all the pieces you need to get there. You with me? So I understand what you're saying, but I want to say again, Dave, this is far. So,
and you think government is going to help you with that?
I don't think government. Since this gonna sound really foul.
Well, let me just say also
go
what I
ahead.
was saying from that too, though, had it not been for my mother and I mean a certain amount of
Right.
kind of
course.
myself, then I mean but for the grace of God, as they say, there go I. And so I have to I taught school for a handful of years, worked in youth programs from Park to UA Little Rock, and I see kids who do not necessarily, and I mean I don't again mean this as a critique of
Right.
parents or anything like that, but in some cases do not have the necessary support, and so I don't think, and I know that you're not saying this, Brother Coleman, but I don't think that we leave them in alerts because
Oh no.
So I don't believe that we can just say we can depend on our government, our state government in particular, our local government, I know indeed, to kind of cover all the bases. But and that's why I think like the collaboration part is important.
Important,
And really thinking about
trying to
how,
do things outside the box, right?
yeah, how as a state, how as a legislator, we can bring something, put it on the table, and we can say that if you all do these things, if you all collaborate, you all work together, and then we'll provide a block grant, or we'll provide, some other levels of assistance,
Right.
something like that. I mean, I think it's, the options are wide open. Another part of my justice agenda is what I call certification amnesty. And I think about the fact that you got, felons or folks who have been convicted of crimes who cannot now be certified to be a barber, who cannot now be certified to do hair, to do tattoos, or to do other particular jobs. And so, can be certified to teach. In some cases, I get it. If you have offenses against children, you should probably not ever be certified to, work with children again. But I mean, for folks who those to read to somebody, now you can't access, federal grants. So what can we do as a state to ensure the upward mobility of folks and lower our recidivism rates? We, keep complaining, our state government says, well, we got to build more prisons. We got to go into business with the private prisons because, people keep committing crimes. We have a high recidivism rate. And, I'm not making any excuses for anybody, but I have to ask, what I'm saying, if somebody's primary skill and breadwinning acumen is around selling dope, and then they get out and they have no other options, like literally none.
Right.
I know folks say, get out, go get a job at McDonald's and stuff like that. And
That's not practical.
I hear you, but just like that. So I mean, can we offer some amnesty to folks who have, mostly non-violent offenses? The types of offenses that did not violate a human being. Is there a way we can offer amnesty to them and do some partnership? Is there a way we can offer that in prison for people who are near release? Like, why couldn't we be doing Bible college programs for folks getting ready to come out of prison? So they can,
Let me ask you a question on that
He
point.
spoke to a very good point. So the thing I really am enjoying about what he said is so if you look around, we already know that if you submit something to be put before the board or to put before the legislature, 9 times out of 10 it ain't gonna pass because you ain't got enough votes, right? So when you start talking about finding ways outside of, creating collaborations outside of, that makes more sense to me. That's what I've always talked about, is that in city government, if you look around, Director Richards does a very good job of creating these partnerships without having to go before the board, right? But there are some things, you just ain't got no choice, you gotta go before the board, right? But I think that's important that our black leaders have a better understanding about, and I think to have that kind of knowledge to be able to connect those dots, you have to know what's there, right? You have to know the ills of your community. And what we find is we elect a lot of people who don't have that general knowledge that they know, well, over here in the corner, you got so-and-so, or down the street, you got so-and-so. We don't often elect people like that. We elect people who say the right things, right? Don't know a damn thing, but they say the right thing.
I don't.
Yeah, I mean, even folks who, I was telling somebody the other day that, part of what I call my common sense agenda is protection of our sources of air and water and food sources. And it's like, ain't no farmers in Central Arkansas. Nobody's gonna be interested in that. I was like, well, there's some eaters in Central Arkansas.
Right.
I mean, like, you know, we benefit from the rice that's being grown here, from the soybeans that are being grown here, and you know, and certainly we benefit from the drinking water. Yeah. So we don't want animal waste ruining our watershed. So we can, I mean, we see what happened in Flint.
Right.
You know, and it is apparent that folks won't think twice about poisoning some water sources. Yeah. And I think our air, we want our kids to breathe clean air. So I mean, why wouldn't that just be a priority in general of everybody? And, you know, I'm kind of, like I said, running this by some folks, and they're like, well, you know, it ain't a whole lot of black environmentalists, so that might not hit with, you know, with a lot of black folks.
Because we don't get it. We don't get it, yeah.
Just like there ain't a whole lot of black hockey players. I get so sick of people saying that.
Yeah.
But there ain't a whole lot of black skaters, or black gymnasts,
in Little Rock,
or black tennis players.
In Little Rock.
But there's a whole bunch of folks. Yeah. All of us breathe air.
I'm being facetious.
Yeah.
But in Little Rock, if you go to the meetings, and I've seen me and Ryan have been at the meetings. If you go to the meetings, you see the same people, right? So it's not often you go. Now I've only been to one meeting about the environment. That's the meeting they had about the watershed, but the quote unquote was talking about. That meeting was predominantly white, right? I don't know why. Because black people drink water too. Yeah. The watershed belongs to us too, right? Yeah. So I don't know why they weren't. Right, yeah. Gotta have the Kool-Aid, bro. And so I don't understand
what's Kool-Aid?
Yeah, of course it is. But a bougie elitist would not know what Kool-Aid is, as I said. Please, Dave, carry on.
Oh, well, thank you very much, Mr. Robert. Let me ask you a question. Listening to some of your agenda, it seems a little bit
optimistic.
Well, let me just say it's more than optimistic. It's certainly different.
Dave's gonna say you're naive. Go ahead, Dave.
It's certainly different from what the Black Caucus has been putting forward as of late. Have you talked to any of them about your agenda, and if so, what are their responses?
So I'm fortunate to now there are other Democrats in the race, so folks are careful about that, and understandably so about supporting folks. But I'm glad to have at least the good counsel of folks like Vivian Flowers, Senator Joyce Elliott. And she's particularly Senator Elliott, because she's my state senator. She's the senator in the district where I work, and so I think that sometimes folks can become jaded from experience, and I understand that. I mean, I've never been in the state legislature, so I don't know exactly how it works. I spent plenty of time over the past several sessions down at committee meetings and stuff like that, and I see how things can get kind of entangled and caught up in committee. How stuff can kind of be stopped before it even gets out of the gate good. And so I'm not so foolish as to believe that an ambitious agenda is something that folks just gonna jump on and be like, oh, that boy a genius, you the first one that ever did this, So I look what it did, he say the word. But so I guess I'm not so foolish as to believe that coming out of the gate, any of this, let alone some of this, is gonna be successful. But I think that there are some common interests. I believe the Congressional Black Caucus, and before then Booker T. Washington repeated something that Lord Mountbatten said, that we don't have any permanent friends or permanent enemies. We have permanent interests.
Right.
And Arkansas is a poor state all around the state. Mm-hmm. I went to visit a program in Wiener, which is a funny name, but also an overwhelmingly white town. I ain't seen not another person there, but it's also a very poor town where a lot of people depend on public assistance, where they depend on out-of-school programs, where there are levels of drug addiction that you don't see in other parts of the state. Mm-hmm. And that's the veneer that we don't ever see. People always connect my community with those type of ills and woes. And so I think there is some common interest to be built around that. Folks in Van Buren.
What's their voting record in Wiener?
Probably about the same as here.
As far as Republican versus Democrat?
Republican, for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but that still doesn't change the dynamics. It don't. To me, it doesn't change the dynamics. To me, even if you're white, even if you're poor and white, you still got the same problems as a poor black. Not from their perspective. Well, okay, so I can't think for them or think what they're trying to think. My point is, if you from what you just heard from what Ron just said, the people got the same issues regardless of the geographical location, right? if you live in Little Rock and you live on 22nd, you got the same issue as a cat in Wiener who stays on Highway 8. It ain't no different, bro. Right? So I think at some point, well, I ain't got, Dave, you like being racist. I can't help it. I'm not a racist.
I'm a realist.
I love everybody, Dave.
Good for you. I
love
don't.
everybody.
I don't. I'm just being real.
No, but I mean, okay, so we
I
got
understand the premise of the point. I'm just simply saying when it boils down to it.
the problem for me is and has always been is that regardless of where you live, you got the same damn issue.
Yeah, you do.
And what some of us have allowed is we've allowed people who profit off of us being against one another.
True.
Right?
We
So
know that.
We've
right.
never tried to have
So for those white people in Wiener, based on what his agenda he just described to us, which is a very pro-positive, pro-poor agenda, no pun intended, would those white people vote for him?
probably not.
Case closed.
But
Let's move on. Next question.
But the point I want to make, because I think this is important, because man, I get so frustrated with people because
You're looking frustrated.
yeah, I really am.
You're stuttering now.
It's frustrating.
Yeah,
and the reason
I can always tell when you get
is
frustrated.
because
Because you hate it when people talk over you when we do this. So go ahead, Robert. You got something to say? Go ahead. Get it out.
I'm not even thinking about you, man. You know after Riley will get you. But listen, so often we have conversations and we never have the right conversation, right? And so sometimes this is what I firmly believe. I was in a meeting about a month ago now with the police chief.
This wasn't an advocate meeting, was it?
With the police chief and the city manager, the mayor, and some other folks. And in this meeting, this guy was livid. He was hot, right? And I thought to myself, I've been that guy before. I've been that guy before. Shut up. And I thought to myself, I've been that guy before where I've been in meetings and I've really been charged up, right? I've really been hot. And unfortunately, because I was so hot and so charged, the only thing that came out in that meeting was how angry I was, right? None of my points resonated with anybody.
Angry black man.
Because I was just angry, right?
You're an angry black man.
And so after the meeting,
We all should be angry.
after letting the whole meeting sink in and kind of replaying it in my mind, I called the chief and said, hey, do you mind giving me the cash number? I want to have my own conversation with him, right? So in us having our own conversation, we found commonality. You with me? Now, us finding that commonality led to us having more conversations. And so I think that it's important that all of us, not just elected officials, but all of us have these conversations beyond the meeting, because it allows us to find commonality, and when we find commonality, we can then work together to really try to find some solutions to the problems we face. And so what happens now is that we never had these conversations because we make the assumption he's just a racist because he voted for Trump or they are whatever. And I think if we're really gonna have progress, man, we gotta stop that. We gotta stop doing that. We gotta stop assuming that just because someone does one thing or two things, that means they're a certain kind of way, because it's just not true. And I'm done. Your turn, Dave. Your thoughts, play.
I was wondering when you were going to end your little soliloquy. Ryan, he's our guest, not you, Robert. You're here every day. But no, good points all the way around. Ryan, you have, before we get out of here, you got anything else you want to add specifically on why people should be voting for you in District 34? And by the way, we're like this every day, so I hadn't figured it out.
I know.
He's like an ex-wife.
Oh, really? I get the ex-wife moniker. Yeah, wait till you leave, Ryan. I'm an ex-wife of mine. I got a whole hour of browbeat.
Let me say this. I was raised up in District 34. Of course, I currently live in District 34. My kids go to school just like I did in District 34. I work in District 34. I worship and preach in District 34. And so someone told me that, oh, well, you're pretty heavily invested in District 34. And I think the correct way of looking at that is District 34 has invested in me. The people of District 34 have invested in me heavily. And so I feel like I owe a great debt of gratitude and service to District 34. And, for that reasons and because of the specific agenda pieces that I feel like are important to our district, and for the opportunity to get with folks all around the district, and I'm running hard. I hope I can earn every vote.
Let me ask you another quick question
January
before we
14th
go.
and March 3rd.
What do you say to black people who say, and I'm going to be frank with you, we have enough preachers running. We've had a lot of preachers run over the years, and we have gotten very little done. What do you say to that?
I'm atypical among preachers, and I don't mean that as a slight against preachers in general. You know, I'm not stepping into this space believing in my own righteousness or my own rightness, but you know, I'm a Christian fundamentalist, you know, if you will, and the fundamentals of my faith are that we do justice, love mercy, walk with humility, feed the poor, clothe the naked, visit the imprisoned, and take care of our children as our own heritage. And so, you know, I'm a bivocational person. I've worked in youth organizations for almost 20 years now. And so, you know, outside of being a preacher, which of course informs my everyday life, you know, I'm also a person who's worked very closely to these issues. So, you know, and I get the frustration because, I mean, you know, let's just be honest, the church itself has been raggedy when it comes to taking care of people's life.
Wow,
Amen.
there's a lot of stuff we can go in on that issue because you know I always say, hey, you
Please
talk
let
about,
me come back on that.
I mean, you talk about
I got receipts.
there are a lot of stuff that you
This is
can.
your receipts.
Hey, Black History every Sunday, every Wednesday, economic class every Sunday and Wednesday.
And when you
How
quit it
about
already.
asking your congregation to go and spend
you
money at a
quit it
black
already.
business? By the way, tomorrow we're gonna have a sister from Tampa who has put together a black bus tour to black businesses. Now we've been trying to figure out. We wanted to do this a while back and never got it together. But she reached out to me this morning, as a matter of fact, said she listens to the show and would like to come on, and even though it's in Tampa, talk about why she put that together. Because again, we have to be, if we're gonna change our disposition, then we not only have to do it in politics, we've got to do it in our homes, we've got to do it in our communities, we've got to do it in our businesses. And the key, in my opinion, look, I'm sorry, I've been through the government dance. It ain't working for black people. You know, we certainly need black people in government, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But we more or less we have to do it for ourselves. That's just what I believe in now. We gotta, if we're gonna change this, we gotta do it for ourselves. If I want a new car, I can't say, Rob, hey, you know, Ryan, man, I need, I want to get that new Hellcat, Dodge Hellcat, man. Give me 10. $10, not 10,000. You give me 10,000, I'm in good shape. I can't do that. I got to go out there and hustle and hump and get that money. And we gotta take ownership of our own communities. Don't be breathing hard, Robert. You know I'm telling the truth.
I'm not saying I don't totally disagree with you, but if we don't identify the monies that are already coming into our communities and try to find ways to
Identify it. Open your wallet.
No, Dave. See, I get where you are.
Okay.
You down the street, right? So I'm at the very beginning. I'm the guy standing there wanting to turn the faucet on, right? See, you already down the end of the trough. You talking about spending your money down here. I'm talking about how you get some money to spend down
Black
here.
Friday is in 2 weeks.
But hold on, Dave.
Go watch and
Hold
see
on,
how
Dave.
many black
Hold
folks
on,
are standing in line
Hold
to
on,
get
Dave.
that
Hold on,
$198 TV.
Let me say this again. Every year.
At Walmart, who's trying to destroy our schools.
Every year without fail. Every year. Let me say it again. Every year without fail. $600 million comes into this city, not the state.
Mm-hmm.
This city to identify and address the issues of our community.
Mm-hmm.
Niggas, don't talk to me about spending no money with a black man. I need some of that $600 million
What
to
did
be
you
spent
call
with
me?
me. I said Negro, didn't I?
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
Negro. I said, I need that money spent with me now.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm talking about. You're way down the trough. You talking about spending some money. I'm talking about making the money. You with me? How do we identify people who can go after that money? That's the money that's important. That's the money that's creating jobs. That's the money that's rebuilding our communities right there. How do we identify that, Negro? Now holler back at your boy when you get a minute, man.
Where have they rebuilt our community in this city?
That's what I said. You got money to build houses in the community, in the black community. There's money coming in here every year. Dude, I guess you think I'm playing. $600 million.
I know.
600. Not the state. I ain't talking about the state. I ain't talking about the whole state. I'm just talking about the city of
Don't get
Little
excited
Rock.
and break up our computers and stuff.
Man, I ain't saying you. I'm just talking about Little Rock.
So why is it that other black people don't know about that money?
I don't know. Ask them. I don't know. Oh, so when you just found out about it today?
Oh no, I've been on.
Oh, you have? How much have you exercised, player?
Oh,
See, you be trying to take shots at me, man.
I'm just
Right,
saying,
you
man.
see this, right?
I'm just saying.
Come on, bro.
Here's my point.
Okay,
here's my point. We'll let it
Please,
last.
come
Okay.
on. Be very succinct in your point. See,
Succinct
Dave
and
like
concise.
to make these points, man. He'll take you all around the primrose path.
No, I'm not taking it around by Sally's
Take you
house.
down by the bushes. Pick you by the bushes and hit you in the head.
Somebody's at Sally's house right now. I got okay. I'm just simply saying this. All of that money, plus the money that we create. I'm simply saying that before we can start determining how we're going to spend, even if we got all that money, the same argument goes about reparations. Well, if you get reparations, all you're going to have is spent up in a month. That's because you don't understand money. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah, if we understood money, then that $600 million you talked about would be different. Our mentality would be different. But the problem is that we don't have educational programs to teach people about money, how to spend money. And I, my son got married, and we're going to the reception in December, right? And here's what, he set up this registry at 2 stores, all right? And my son is a very learned guy. He's got a degree. He's going to go to JAG school. He's 4 years in the Navy. And he called me up and he said, Dad, he said, I noticed you ain't pulled anything out of the registry yet. I said, I'm not. He said, why? I said, those are trinkets. That kitchen stuff and curtains and blenders, I don't give a damn about that crap. I said, I'm going to buy you an investment. Okay? You understand what I'm saying? What that is creating loan money, because that's what we've got to do now. That's what we've got to start. It ain't about me. My life is gone. I've lived more, but my life, there's more behind me than ahead of me. But I can certainly begin to leave that legacy for someone else. That same legacy is that mother growing up who had no education, who had no father to help her raise their children, but made sure that, hey, I'm going to make sure that you get the right education so that you don't have to live the way I did.
Right.
Okay? That's what I'm saying. Okay? Anyway.
Right, sorry we took up a lot of your time with this nonsense, man. We're going to have to bring you back.
Yeah, we'll definitely bring you back.
We'll bring you back, because I think we got one more person to bring on. So
Roderick Talley, I believe. So
we'll bring everybody back.
Yeah, we'll bring you back and talk more.
Then we'll talk about you next time. I won't let Dave co-op your hour.
That was you. You got mad at me because I was right, like you always do.
Okay, Dave. Wait till Ryan leaves. I'm gonna light that. I'm gonna light you up.
I'm just saying.
Nice. My mom always said, "Be nice in front of company." So I'm gonna be nice right now.
Okay. Well, he might be your state representative coming up.
Hey.
What district do you live in, by the way?
Real funny. I'm in 34.
Oh, I was just.
I hope I can earn your vote, Mr. Webb.
Yeah.
Hope that I can stop by your house and convince you or convince of my agenda. And I hope that you know that voting is January 14th and March 3rd. We'll be on the ballot twice on March 3rd.
Okay.
There you
I
go.
look forward to earning your vote, sir.
All right. That's what's up. So,
Look forward to earning the vote of Ms. Evelyn Coleman also.
Yeah.
Dave, hold on, dog. Oh, Dave.
I don't vote for my mom.
It's a hard
But
sell.
you
Yeah,
can vote for
he
yourself,
knows.
see?
I already
You
know.
can vote for
He
yourself,
knows.
man. You in 34?
I know where I am,
Oh,
man.
goodness gracious alive. I look forward to earning your vote, Mr. Coleman.
Yeah. I will not tell you what my vote is, but it's been interesting compared to.
We can't endorse. So,
Right.
Dave, stop trying to endorse. Dave trying to give you an endorsement. Stop it, man. Stop.
I just said.
Stop
I just
it.
have.
We don't endorse.
Let him
We
talk,
don't
let him
endorse.
talk.
He just
Let him
happened to
talk
go
now.
Look, he know a lot of my people's. If I say Miss Othello face and watch him,
Oh, yeah. She's a district, too.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So,
Brother Peter Faison.
there you go, Peter. All of them. Exactly. So, but no. But we appreciate you coming in. Enjoyed it, and it's interesting to see the different stances for different candidates as we move forward. My whole thing is, and I know we're keeping you long, but my whole thing is that, man, we need fighters, bro.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm going to say this before
Can
you
I
get
can
out.
I
Okay,
can I finish and then you can say what you want to say before he gets out?
Okay, my bad.
My whole thing, and look, I'm gonna tell you, I'm a hard nut, okay? And right now, more than anything else, what we need in this city more than anything else are fighters.
Absolutely.
And that don't mean that you're fighting just to get media attention. Because see, I agree with Robert, you can fight behind the scenes and get things done. But the point is that we need fighters in this city.
I can think about
Bad.
the amount of things that somebody told me, like, John Walker never passed, any significant legislation. But I sat in those committee meetings and I saw him not allow bad legislation to get out.
Exactly.
He knew parliamentary procedure, like the back of his hand, and not only that, he knew how to hold up some bad stuff in committee. And he knew what to press forward on. So, that's what I want to take as a lesson from Mr. Walker. Also, because we need to fight on all ends. To your point.
Well, and exactly, and I think people miss that. They think that because when you look at the caucus as a whole, it's tough getting legislation out of this body, considering the fact you don't have a majority,
Right.
and then you have a Republican state, and they're going to run interference on anything that the minority party wants to get done. So you have to be able to fight smarter.
Right. Absolutely.
And it seems to me, since I've been back in the city 4 years, that the black politicians in this city don't understand that. I'm just saying, you don't have to comment on that. This is me. I think at some point, black politicians are going to have to stand up and be counted in this city if it's going to move forward. Because it hasn't moved forward in the 35 years I was gone. This is the same damn Little Rock I left. It really is. You've got the river market, but other than that, this is the same Little Rock that I left 35 years ago. And I don't want it to be this way. I plan to make the rest of my life here, but we just need fighters. And it doesn't have to be black fighters. They can be white. They can just be Hispanic, but they got to be for the people. Not get up there and get paid off by people like Robert Webb and his cronies. So anyway, Ryan, thanks for coming. You had something else you wanted to add? Have you lost your train of thought? Oh man.
Under the bus.
You done?
That's painful.
Can we let our guests go now?
Yes, please.
Okay. All right. All right. Hey, we're going to take the top of the hour break. We're running late because Robert wanted to go on this little soliloquy. We'll be. I'm sorry.
I got you, player. I got you.
I've been throwing those left hooks on you today, haven't I? Fire! Left hook. Oh, Doug Robert. Oh, you just said watch the birdie.
I'm gonna get you back though. It's all good, player.
We'll be back in a moment. We'll see our guest out. You're listening to Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices on JoinNetRadio.com.
They liked you, man. They liked you.
Good
They
job.
liked you. Yeah.
Oh, y'all got the.
Yeah, nah, just people hitting up somebody. Yeah, they like you, man. So, yeah, they like you.
They were poking fun at you because you didn't show up
Didn't
Friday.
show up, yeah. They kept saying, is that the
Ryan guy who didn't show up Friday?
I forgot to tell him, no. I forgot to tell him what.
Man.
He was at the protest Thursday.
Well, I was, but then look, I'm gonna tell you what. We went over to the roof. That's the sad part about it. We were over to the roof.
Oh, you were right next to Church
Well,
Street?
because I told my daughter's teachers that I would pay for their breakfast.
Okay.
This is like 9:30, 9 o'clock. So I said, well, you know what? I'm gonna hang out at the roof. And then I was like, well, you know what? I ain't gonna stay here all the way to noon. I went down to the community bakery for a second, then went to the house.
Killing time.
And then look, then went over to the Capitol. It wasn't even thinking, just like, well, shit, let me go up to the Capitol.
I did that all the time, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Just
I really
completely
am.
forget, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I
Dave
hate
was really pissed, man. I calmed him down, though.
I hate wasting folks' time. I really
I don't have a pissed off bone in my body.
You can tell that's not true, bro.
I'm just a laid back kind of guy in a mixed up kind of world.
Man, now I feel real crazy because then I just got to telling you I stood up your
You're right. Say he could. I'm consistent.
I'm talking about she. And she lit me up so loud. I was in the church, my mouth hanging open. I was like, what I need to do.
That's all you can say.
That's Tracy.
Yeah.
That's her. But yeah, man, I wish you well, and we'll have you back, and just keep moving forward, brother.
It's gonna be
You know what I'm
interesting.
saying?
It's gonna be interesting.
You know,
When y'all gonna have a debate? Y'all gonna have a debate?
So
yeah, we'd like to have.
told me that Deborah Mitchell was saying that the Democratic Black Caucus was trying to have one at Willie Hinton on the 25th, but she said somebody didn't agree on the date. She didn't say who, but she said somebody didn't agree on the date. So.
Oh, okay.
25th of November. The election is the 14th.
Of January and then March. So the Democratic primary for the special election is January 14th.
And then
Then the
main.
special election and the Democratic primary for the general election happen on March 3rd, same day.
Okay.
Okay. All right, gotcha.
Well, we want to try to get you all on here.
All of us?
Yeah, to do a debate here.
Once we find out who all of us are.
Yeah.
Right.
So y'all met Lee Miller?
Nah, who is he?
So the only reason I know him is because he just came onto the Mosaic Templars advisory board.
Really?
He went to, I want to say law school, I don't know, but in Michigan at Cooley.
Okay.
And so I think he just maybe moved back here a year or so ago.
Okay. I don't know him at all. I haven't even
He
heard
just
of
moved back a year ago.
Like I you know, like I said, I never seen him. Until
him. How old is he? Younger than us.
He might be 30.
Who's your campaign manager?
Tamika Edwards.
Tamika. Oh, I know Tamika. Yeah, I know Tamika.
Yeah, Tamika. So they were saying Tamika was going to run for the seat.
Well, she moved.
Did she?
Speaking of bougie, I roast her every time I see it. She moved. Hey man, I'm just kidding. They moved over to the Heights.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, they had this house that they had bought with her husband's partner, fixing it up. So the partner was not interested no more, so they bought him out. And they said it was just kind of like, well, you know, we may as well just move to the house because somebody wanted to buy the house. Okay, sure. So, you know.
Really? Okay. Yeah, everybody abandoning us, man.
Yeah.
Everybody getting up out on us. Can't get nobody to stay around. Can't get them to stay. But hey, definitely, I'll let you know when we're gonna bring you back. It'll probably be soon, man. 'Cause we gotta get Leo. We gotta get Lee and Tally. I don't know what the hell Tyler did. Tyler just ran for 36 2 weeks ago.
That's the crazy part about it. He right after he lost, he put this long rant on Facebook. Basically, fuck y'all didn't vote for me, y'all didn't come out, I did all this stuff for the community, nobody come out. So I called him and I said, hey, bro, you can still run in a Democratic primary for the general election. It's just a special election. Don't burn those bridges. Just get out here and work harder and try to win this next time around. Now I'm moving to Georgia. Okay? Then I look up, he's taking the firefighters exam in Georgia. Then I look up, he's talking about he's working for a campaign. I look up again, he's talking about I'm gonna file to run for Senate seat 16 in the state of Georgia. All the way up to the point that the day he was getting ready to file was the Monday after Mr. Walker had died. So he sent me a text. Hey, I was on my way getting ready to file to run for Senate in Georgia. I found out Mr. Walker died. I think I'm gonna move back, but I'm not gonna run if you don't run. Now, mind you, you know what I'm saying? I thought it was tacky. The man ain't even dead cold yet. You know, so I said, well, you know, I said, hey, you know, don't let nobody discourage you from doing whatever you want to do.
Right.
But let's take this time to just memorialize Mr. Walker.
Yeah,
we
right.
have to do that.
Well, you should say, dumbass, reflect for a minute.
Come in.
Just reflect.
All right, welcome back to the show. Dave Coleman, Robert Webb in the house. I appreciate Brian Davis for dropping by. We'll get him back on as well as some of the other candidates as well as we move forward here for Black Focus Radio. We want to bring you the news on what's going on with our candidates. No ifs, ands, or buts about it, you know. And I'm not going to endorse anyone, but certainly I'm going to vote for someone. And
Who are you going to vote for?
I'll withhold my. Let me just say, I don't know at this point. I'm leaning towards someone.
You're leaning towards someone?
Yeah, I'm leaning towards someone, but
Do we know them?
I would think so if they come on the show.
Oh, so somebody who's been on the show.
I don't know if they've been on here or not.
Well, they were this week or last week.
I don't know. You'll find that I have a great poker face. Okay.
I'm not leaning toward anybody yet. There are a couple questions I've yet to have answered, and I'll have those questions answered on the second round when we have our debate. Then I'll know exactly who I'm voting for.
Okay. Well, I hadn't decided yet either, but I think it's good that that people get to hear their agendas
But I think it's
and their
But I
presentations.
think it's important that everybody go out. If you don't give them $10, go out and put some money on their books. Put some money in their books, y'all. We gotta buy a canvas back. Show them the love with your purse. Show them the love with your purse. Go ahead, Dave. You can say something now. I give you permission.
Okay.
I give you permission.
Okay.
Please speak, black man.
Okay.
And give money to both of them. Don't give it to just one. Give to both of them. All three.
So what is
all four.
what is the point of giving money to both?
Because I mean, one of them's gonna win.
Okay.
So don't single out one of them. Give money to all four of them. Give money to all of them. It's about buying our candidates back. And if you got, like I said, if you got $100, give 25 to each one of them. If you got 200, give 50 to each one of them. Whatever you got to give, make sure you spread it out. You give each one the same amount, because the thing is, y'all, it's just about us supporting our candidates, telling them, hey, I got your back now because I want you to have my back when you get there. That's all we doing. That's all contribution is. Saying, hey, I got your back, and I want you to have my back when you get there. So yeah. So now I gotta cut my money down.
I can't give them any money.
Why?
Because I'm a journalist.
Dave, you can still give all four of them money.
No.
I ain't saying just give one of them money.
Because then people, when I decide to run for president, then they'll go back and see who I donated for, and I don't want to be pigeonholed.
Give them all money, Dave. Break them all off something. Okay. Joyce, you got to break Joyce off something. We got to break everything.
I'm definitely going to give Joyce some money.
Oh, really? So you're not worried about him coming back on Joyce, huh?
Well, I detest her opponent so badly that, hey, I'm going to give her some money.
Well, we all got to give her some money. We all got to make it a point to get other people to also give her money, because, again, I don't think people understand how expensive these congressional races are. So everybody within earshot, set a personal goal that you want to raise $5,000 or $1,000 or $600 for Joyce, and get out there and get it done.
So when are our next candidates coming on?
I don't know, man. I got to get in touch with them. I don't know Lee Miller, so
well, call him up, find out.
I gotta find a way to get in contact with him, and I'm gonna call. I guess I'll call Rodney.
He's only been here a year.
Who?
Lee Miller.
I don't know. I don't know him.
Okay.
I can't say. I don't know.
Well, that's kind of tight. I mean, I don't know him one way or the other, but I'm hard pressed to believe that someone that's only been here a year knows the actual problems of Little Rock.
Well, maybe he's from Little Rock. I don't know.
I don't care. I was from Little Rock. I still had to move back and be here for 4 or 5 years, and I'm in the knowing in the media. I still had to get a better grip of what's going on before I could start really commenting on it. That's why I have you here, because you know Little Rock more than I do. I'm serious. That's part of the reason that I wanted to get you on, is because you were in the know in Little Rock. You know, it would have been radio malpractice, as far as I'm concerned, had I did a show and not know what was going on in Little Rock. You know what I'm saying? I know more now.
I got you.
So, I mean, it's not to be critical, but if you've only been here a year, even though you grew up here, I mean,
well,
I don't know.
The issues in Little Rock never change.
That's true.
Stay the same.
Yeah.
The same issues we had in 1990, the same issues we got in 2000, the same issues we'll probably have in 2020. The great thing,
well, that's just
the
next year.
unfortunate thing about Little Rock
2 months away, they're gonna change.
Yeah, the unfortunate thing about Little Rock is it never changes, and that's doing large part that we have to change our mentality about how we support our candidates, I
just think they need all of them need to be voted out and new ones to be put in.
Yeah, well, that never happened. But I mean, we just gotta start supporting the people that support us.
Can I not dream
support the people that support
the
us.
impossible dream?
You can dream the
To
impossible.
right the unrightable wrong.
Oh, God. Jeez. That's pretty depressing.
I'm just saying, you know, Man of La Mancha, man. See, again, how do I know about Man of La Mancha? Because I read Shakespeare when I was in the 7th and 8th grade.
Oh, sorry about that. Did I yarn? My bad. Let me do that.
You know who was the main character of Man of La Mancha, don't you?
No, who's that?
Don Quixote.
Oh, I thought
He would bow at windows. But anyway, I got a couple other things we're going to talk about today, of course. In Fayetteville, I was in Fayetteville this weekend, we're in that area. Not many black folks up there.
Nope.
But did you hear about the burial ground that they found in Fayetteville?
No.
This weekend, and the burial ground, just not any burial ground, it is actually a slave burial ground. And it was kind of comical because the burial ground is on the Christian Life Cathedral, where Pastor Steve Dixon resides. And okay, I just got to play the audio, okay? Because it was just something comical to me when I saw this, because what they were playing, how they discovered it, is that a cell phone company, this church, this property sits on a high vista, and a cell phone company wanted to put a cell phone tower there.
Okay.
Okay, so when they went out and surveyed the land, which they always do before they dig, it's law, by the way, they realized that there were graves there.
Okay.
There were 90 graves
90. Okay.
of slaves. So the fascinating thing is, how'd y'all know they were slaves? So it's on the property of this white church, and they were out there praying for the and they said they're not going to disturb the ground, which is great, and so on and so forth. But I just found it interesting, and I don't really like to play the audio, but I just found it interesting that you did this, you didn't dig up anything, you didn't exhume anything, but you knew they were slaves. And they're buried behind some of the previous white landowners. So you've got the tombstones of the white landowners, and then you have the slave graves buried behind them.
And what city was this in?
Fayetteville, Arkansas.
Okay.
You know, so I just thought that was interesting that you all knew there were slaves. Now,
It sounds like there's more to that story.
now you're getting where I'm going. Because how the hell you know they were slaves, number one? And I'm willing to bet you, I don't know this to be true, but I'm willing to bet you that church knew that already.
Yeah, probably.
It's your land. You've got a graveyard behind the church that has white owners. You had to know who those people were.
So, you know, they got those x-ray machines that they can, from my understanding, they can x-ray the ground.
That's what they do, yeah.
X-ray the ground.
Right.
So I'm thinking that they x-rayed the ground, and maybe they noticed the broken bones and different stuff that made them, you know, let go, hey, you know what, these are slaves, because other people wouldn't have been broken like this. I don't know. It's just more to the story for me. It's
Right.
like this whole thing with Kaepernick.
We're gonna get to that in a moment.
Okay.
Don't jump on
Alright,
that
don't
yet.
jump.
But I just thought I'd throw that out there because I find that interesting, because I was right up there, and had I known, I would have went to the site just to take some pictures. I really would have.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
You know, so, but this story just came out this morning. Okay. All right. So there are a couple of other stories, and so did you know your boy? Well, let's go ahead and talk about this Kaepernick thing. So over the weekend, well, last Tuesday, Kaepernick got a call from the NFL and said, "Hey, look, we've decided that we're going to give you a workout on Saturday afternoon."
You got 48 hours to accept.
Okay, you have 2 hours to accept. No, they didn't give him 48 hours. They gave him 2 hours.
2 hours.
And he had to sign a waiver saying that if we give you this workout, then you would drop all future legal proceedings against the NFL. Okay? So at the end of the day, the workout didn't go as planned. Allegedly, according to the NFL, there were 28 teams that were going to come and watch this workout. That's what the NFL says. All right? We don't know that. There was not a list. By the way, did you know that the NFL alerted certain people in the media before they alerted Colin Kaepernick?
Yeah, that makes sense.
But did you know it? And the reason I'm saying this because there's a bloviating idiot that I will refuse to even listen to that really acted a damn fool over the weekend that I'm gonna get to. But yes. But did you know that if the NFL was sincere, why would they alert the media before they alerted Colin Kaepernick? Any Bueller? Why would they do that? I'm just curious. If they were serious, wouldn't you say call Kaepernick first, work out the details on why, when, where, why? And by the way, you wanted to maintain all the film of Kaepernick as opposed to letting the media in and so on and so forth. Now, a lot of people are saying, well, he missed an opportunity to see. He don't want to play anyway. Because if it were me, I would have been out there doing this, and this. And then the other thing is that fascinates me, and I used to talk about this all the time in Nashville on my show, Well, on my job, I couldn't. Okay, let me start right there. Your job, you're not one of the best in your job in the world. You're not a multi-million-dollar entity. So there is no other job that compares to professional athletics, period. Not even the music industry. So when you talk about comparing your job to what those professional athletes do, there is no comparison, period. So let's stop that idiocy right off the bat, okay? Now, more importantly, as far as the NFL, see, Kaepernick called their bluff because, see, here's what they were hoping that he was going to do. He was going to say, oh, you only gave me 2 hours to accept. I can't get ready at that time. He called their bluff on that, all right? Then they said, we're going to maintain the rights to the video. Kaepernick said, no, we want, okay, if you're going to do that, why don't you invite the local media in so they can see? Oh, no, we don't want to do that either, okay? So then Kaepernick moves the workout to about 30 miles away to a high school. Now, for whatever reasons why they did that, I don't know. But 7 to 8 teams drove 30 minutes away to see Kaepernick. Now, you mean to tell me that there were 28 teams. Last I checked, all of them aren't in Atlanta. So it would have hurt them to say, oh, well, they're moving the workout and they drive an extra 30 minutes to the workout. Let's say you flew from Seattle. You're not going to take that 30-minute drive? What about San Francisco? What about Denver? What about Chicago? What about New York? You're not going to take that 30-minute drive? So my point is this. The NFL can argue and say, well, we had 28 teams that are waiting. You didn't offer any proof whatsoever that you had 28 teams there. There was not a list that was given out. You could tell the media that you were going to hold the workout, but you couldn't give the media the list of the teams that were going to show up. That's a bunch of crap. I don't trust the NFL as far as I can throw him. I still stand with Colin Kaepernick. He can play, but I'm going to be honest. I don't think he's ever going to play in the league again. This is by design.
Yeah, I agree.
This is by design.
I don't think he'll ever play. From the beginning, I just thought it was a PR stuff.
Exactly. That's what it was.
Give the NFL opportunity to say, well, see, we told you.
Yep.
This is who we're dealing with, right? It's all him. He's an uppity Negro, and he just wants things his way. Man, I would say I'm torn, but I'd be lying if I said I'm torn. For me, I find it kind of repulsive. And the reason I say I find it repulsive is that you get an NFL who's now pretending to be the victim. See, we tried to reach out, now he's not doing it.
Exactly.
And what bothers me even more is that when you have, I watched your boy Damian Woody and Kaepernick. I mean, not Kaepernick, but Damian Woody and Stephen A. It's just some stuff this morning, man, that just really troubled me. Because, yeah, I mean, I get so frustrated talking about this, but the brother broke not one NFL rule. Not one. He didn't hit his wife. He didn't get a DWI. He didn't spit on nobody. He didn't kick nobody. He didn't do none of that. This brother took a knee because unarmed black men were being shot by the police. That's it. And so, essentially, the message has been sent to me by the NFL that we don't really care about black folk. We don't give a damn about y'all.
As long as you're running and tackling, that's all they care about.
And what's disappointing is that now you have Stephen A. and all these other black pundits who are saying, "Oh, Kaepernick is horrible. He should have just took the opportunity." But no, if you really look at this for what it is, now you're gonna call a man and tell him, "Look, you got 2 hours to decide if you want this or not.
Mm-hmm.
We're only gonna give you 2 hours."
Mm-hmm.
Now, I understand. NFL is the NFL. You should just capitulate. Whatever they want, you should just do it.
Mm-hmm.
I get that. I get that, people. I get that you want Kaepernick not to be an uppity Negro and just do whatever you want. He's part of that black aristocrat, ain't he, Dave? He part of y'all club. What's his number in y'all club, Dave? He part of that group. So I
think it's number 7.
At number 7. I understand people wanting to be irritated with him, but I can't be irritated with Kaepernick. I'm more irritated with the NFL. And the reason I'm irritated with them is, come on, guys. This guy, Kaepernick we're talking about, took a team to the Super Bowl, was a play away from taking them back to the Super Bowl. I mean, come on, man. This guy's 3 years removed. You brought back guys who hadn't played in 5 years.
Hell, if Brandon Allen can start for Denver, anybody can play in the NFL.
Yes, you brought guys back who hadn't played in 5 years. My point is I think this is a joke. I think it's insulting, and I think I think what's even more insulting is the way that I'm gonna say this the way I mean it. That black folks have to pretend like they disagree with what Kaepernick did so they can keep their jobs. That to me is what's the most insulting, because you know what, you don't even get honest journalism, because these guys can't say how they really feel, because if they do, they would have a job.
Well, and that's the point. And the reason, I guess over the last year I've started watching Stephen A. Smith a little bit more, but he's just an annoying, bloviating fool. And the more you listen, he's there to be the network clown. That's what he's there to do.
Well, you need a yes man.
And
every now and then you need a yes.
Right. And so when you look at what he's done over the years, and by the way, over the weekend, a picture of him and Sheriff Clark shows up. That says everything to me. And then they try to put the post behind his picture, and he says, "Oh, we don't agree with everything, but you cool with me." No, look, let me tell you something. I'm not gonna sit around and agree with anyone or take pictures with anyone that I don't look. If President Trump rolled up in here today and said, "Hey, Dave, let's take a picture," no, bro, I can't do that. I'm sorry. I don't agree with your policies. I don't want to be recognized with it. So, but more importantly than that, Stephen A. is tap dancing for the NFL. And Eric Reed for the Carolina Panthers said the very thing over the weekend. And he attacked Eric Reed. He had a 9-panel post on Instagram attacking Eric Reed.
Who's that?
Stephen A. Smith. And I just found that, he purposely tried to attack him any which way he could. Oh, well, you talking about I'm tap dancing for the NFL. Aren't you playing for the NFL? You tap dancing as well. What he don't realize that Eric Reed lost almost a year's worth of salary standing up for what he believed in. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But here's Stephen A. Smith, who to me has lost all credibility, and he's getting roasted. Here's one other point about Stephen A. Smith. If you watch him, he quickly tells you that Tim Tebow is one of his friends. He loves him some Tim Tebow.
Oh.
Stephen A. Smith.
Of course, yeah.
Okay? Lest we forget, the NFL quarterback that kneeled in protest of abortion during the national anthem in 2012. He was praised by fans as being a model American, then was given 3 NFL contracts in addition to a Major League Baseball contract. Unlike Colin Kaepernick, who clearly stated his protest has nothing to do with flag or military, Tebow specifically said that he couldn't stand for a flag that allowed for abortion. If you can't see the hypocrisy in this, then chances are you're part of the problem. And that's
No, you're not, Dave. And I'm not going to let you say that, Dave, because it's just not true.
okay.
You know why, Dave?
Why is it?
Because in America, white folks, they can always get pissed off about what's happening in America. They got a right to do that. Black folks ain't got that same right. They don't.
I agree with you.
So you can't get mad.
No. What I'm saying is about Stephen A. Smith. Here is Stephen A. Smith, basically from the time that this started, has been chastising Colin Kaepernick. Okay?
Right.
But his so-called buddy that every time he's on that show, oh, my friend Tim Tebow, my friend Tim Tebow. And Tim Tebow admitted he was kneeling because of the national anthem.
Yeah, he don't care.
He admitted it. But
it's his
who
world.
is he attacking?
It's his world.
And that's the problem.
It's not Kaepernick's world. Had it been Kaepernick's world, I think it would have been okay.
So.
I mean, we often have these conversations, man. We often have these conversations, and it never changes, right? So if you're white in America, there are things you can do that are acceptable. You can burn the flag. You can say all kind of crazy stuff. You know what I'm saying? But if you black, you better not.
Well, it's just amazing to me how this continues to play out, and I applaud Tim Tebow. But
Really?
Colin Kaepernick for standing up for what he believes in and not letting that circus take place. I'm going to stand with him. Over the weekend I was kind of hoping. I said, man, I hope this goes well. I'll start talking.
You should have known it wasn't going to go well. It was a setup from the get-go.
I'll start talking more NFL on the weekly sports magazine. I'll start picking games again. Didn't work. It ain't happening.
You knew it wasn't happening. You know it.
It ain't happening.
It was never meant to happen.
I know. They don't want the guy back in the league.
Well,
I mean,
I want to give a shout out to Jay-Z because I think Jay-Z had something to do with this, or at least I want to think he did.
I don't care about Jay-Z.
Why?
I ain't giving him no credit.
Well, I give the brother credit because at least
he's doing that. You know why he's doing it? Go ahead and say what you're gonna say.
No, you tell me why you think he's
okay.
doing it.
Because I heard that. Because when I first heard this was gonna happen, the first thing popped into my mind is, oh, Jay-Z finally having some influence. And I first said, all right, it's about time. But then because I started following this when I first heard it last week to try to get the details, okay?
Right.
And the details from a credible source. And I'll tell you what it is. It's Dan Patrick. I mean, I respect his journalism. I've followed him for years. And he first said late last week that it was Jay-Z, okay, that had something to do with it. And here's why. Because Jay-Z was taking a beating. He's still taking a beating. Okay? So Jay-Z basically went to the Goodell and said, hey, I took a bullet for y'all. Y'all need to take a bullet for me. But if Jay-Z was sincere, then Jay-Z should have made that he got a legitimate tryout. Not this 2-hour mess where you got to sign a waiver. So no, I ain't giving him no credit whatsoever. In fact, it's even worse for Jay-Z because now that more and more news is coming out that this was a PR stunt from the NFL and the NFL wanted him to sign a waiver to say that he would never sue them again. That's all this was about. The NFL was trying to save face. So Jay-Z don't deserve any damn credit as far as I'm concerned. That's just me.
I just say give him credit just because of the simple fact they gave him in a workout. Now, again, well, not because they gave him in a workout, just because
Let me ask you something. Rob, I want you to come work for me. Okay.
I get what you're saying.
I want you to come work for me.
Page.
But here's the dynamics in you working for me.
Okay.
Okay? You need to be here in 10 minutes.
Yeah, we're on the same page with that one. That was BS. The whole thing was BS.
So
because why don't you have it on Tuesday instead of having it on Saturday? And then
exactly.
And I'm gonna just say this, and I ain't trying to make black folks seem less than or inferior anything. But when you watch these other camps, when you watch these other people trying out, you don't see a whole bunch of black folk there. It's mostly white folk. So why would you send a whole bunch of black folk to watch Kaepernick? Because that's what you sent.
Yes.
You didn't send nobody. I didn't see nobody white.
Oh, and by the way, that reminds me.
Nobody white.
Didn't tell him who the receivers was going to be.
Yeah, I mean, still, all of that plays into it.
Okay.
But my thing is, I understand Kaepernick did not trust them, and I think that has merit, and it has merit simply because, hey, I trusted y'all in good faith on other things, and it didn't work out.
Exactly.
My favor. So I understand, and I'm not gonna let y'all have exclusive rights to the tape either, because hey, y'all can make this tape look however y'all want.
Exactly.
If I throw a bad pass, maybe that's all you put in there is me throwing a bad pass. If I do something else, maybe you're putting everything in there that's wrong, and you don't put in there my highlights. Mm-hmm. I get that. Listen, I have no love for the NFL. I'm not going to try to pretend like I do. But at the end of the day, this thing is not about whether Kaepernick should be playing or whether he shouldn't be. I think the larger message here is that the NFL has let us know on more than one occasion that they don't give a damn about black issues or the black community as a whole. And for me as a black man to sit here and say, oh man, they gave Kaepernick a shot, he blew it. No, I can't say that. You sent me a message when you...
But there are a whole lot of black folks who's saying that.
Yeah.
A whole lot of them.
Yeah, because that's not the conversation. The conversation is the NFL still to this day has said to black folks, y'all don't matter. Now, I don't care what anybody else says, but to me, if you don't give Kaepernick a contract, you are simply saying to me, black folk and black issues don't matter. Especially in light of what you just said about Tim Tebow, because I remember listening to them talk about Tim Tebow and saying how courageous he was for doing that. But a black man does the same exact thing, and man, he's vilified. Mm-hmm. But again, this is the America we live in, right? Mm-hmm. The America that if white people say it's okay, it's okay. But if white people say it ain't okay, then it ain't okay.
Well, to give you to put more on your point, so you remember the brawl last Thursday night between the Steelers and Cleveland, right? Yeah. So Myles Garrett has been suspended for the rest of the year. So and the other guys got
with or without pay.
No, he's gonna lose money when you get suspended. You lose money. You don't get that money. Okay. Let's see. Pouncey got 3 games. The center for Pittsburgh, and another Clevelander got, I want to say 4 games, something like that. The quarterback for the Steelers, he got fined $35,000. Now, let me ask you a question. And I've had over the weekend to think about this, and I've watched this video over and over again. I played football. Now, certainly I didn't play on that level, but there was a certain respect that you had for your opponent. Mm-hmm. Whereas, you knock their block off in a play, but you're not trying to hurt anybody. Mm-hmm. All right? So what we fail to realize with this Mason Rudolph thing is there's an area that's always off limits when it comes to a man. That's his groin. Mm-hmm. Okay? No matter where you are, someone tries to kick you in the groin, you morph into something totally different. We've all been there, haven't we? Mm-hmm. Okay? So you're on the field. Myles Garrett takes Mason Rudolph down hard. No penalty is called. Mason Rudolph gets upset. He first grabs Myles Garrett's helmet. Now, I'm going to tell you, I don't have a dog in the hunt. I'm not a Cleveland fan. I'm not a Steeler fan. I'm going by what I saw. Okay? To make this point, this grander point about Colin Kaepernick. All right? He grabs Myles Garrett's helmet first. All right? Begins to twist. And by the way, he takes his cleated foot and attempts to kick Myles Garrett in the groin. At that point, Myles Garrett lost it. Because wait a minute, you're trying to really do damage to me. You already not grabbed my helmet, and now you're trying to kick me in the groin. That's when Garrett snatched his helmet off and unfortunately swung and hit it. Not trying to justify what Garrett did, because at the end of the day, we all know that when those helmets come off, that's when you stop, okay? Because that equipment on, you can seriously injure someone. Right. My point in saying this and bringing this up is Rudolph, who was the instigator in the whole thing, he doesn't get suspended. Now, what's the difference in Garrett and the other 3 guys? Take a guess.
He's black.
Rudolph is white. Garrett is black. And the other 3 guys are black.
So you're saying it's just... I don't disagree with you on that. But for me, you talk about a violent sport, it's controlled violence.
Of course it is.
It's controlled violence, is what they say. You can't control violence. There's no such thing as controlled violence.
Well, you got to have rules.
How you gonna have rules and violence? That's what I think is funny about boxing. How you gonna have rules?
Or UFC for
I can't hit you below the belt. Oh, shit, yeah, I can. We boxing. I'm trying to win. I'm gonna hit you every damn place I can. The thing that kills me about football is we're gonna only be so violent. We're only gonna try to hurt you so much. We're only gonna try to break so many bones. We don't want to break your collarbone. We just want to break your arm socket. We just want to break your elbow. I mean, come on, really? There's no way you can control violence. This is a violent game, and when guys get violent, then you fine them? I've seen guys, now, they're talking about with him swinging a helmet. I've seen guys hit guys, and I thought to myself, damn, if I was playing, I would have to get up and fight him. And this guy hit him with the helmet, don't even look like he hit it, right? But you're finding this guy. I mean, football is a violent sport. And you got big old men on the football field playing football, and now you're saying to me, these guys are too violent. That act was too violent. There's no such thing. There's no such thing. I don't care what anybody says.
But see,
there's no such thing.
You're missing the underlying point.
What's the underlying point?
Because what you just said is so true. But that was a big black guy that was swinging that helmet. We can't have that in our game. You know who Richie Incognito is?
Yeah.
Richie Incognito is probably the most racist player in the NFL. As a matter of fact, Richie Incognito was involved with bullying. If you remember the case in Miami where they bullied a fellow offensive tackle.
Yeah.
Okay, his story goes long before that because I covered him in Nashville when he played for other teams. He is the dirtiest and the nastiest player out there. Now let me tell you something. He's playing in the league right now.
Yeah.
And I know he is because unfortunately he plays for the team that I root for, the Oakland Raiders. Okay. But my point being is Richie Incognito, who is a known white supremacist and racist, is cool. But that big black guy who swung that helmet against that little white quarterback, that was just terrible. We got to do something about that.
Yeah. But again,
that's the underlying racism of all of this.
That's the thing. So, I mean, we go back and look at what your boy Riley Cooper did. He said, I whoop all you niggas.
Exactly.
My boy says, hey, you make me want to kill you, MS, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, come on, man. Let's just admit the double standards there and move on from it. Let's just admit it. People want to admit it. That's the bad thing. Just admit that there are certain things that white people can do and it's okay. And then black people cannot do those same things and they'd be okay as well. Let's just admit it.
Well, I'm sending that piece to Stephen A. Smith about Tim Tebow because that's his friend.
Yeah, you should send it to him and tell him to F yourself. Tell him to F yourself from Robert Webb.
Oh, I'll add some choice words because he's getting lit up on Facebook, on Twitter.
I need to find him right now.
He's getting lit up.
I need to tell him to F himself.
One other note, over the weekend, and we're not turning this into a sports show, but I think quite often sports is a microcosm of
all too often
of the world itself.
All too often.
Now, all of you all have ever listened to me. I've always told you that I am for paying players. And one of the things that I said is players ought to get long-term health insurance because some of the injuries that they get while in school do not manifest themselves until years after they've left school. All right? I'm a living witness. If I wouldn't have been working for Dell and had the insurance to pay for the surgery, that major surgery that I had, I don't know where I probably wouldn't be here today. Okay? I'm just, no hyperbole, that's fact.
That's fact. I got you.
So Saturday, Tua Tagovailoa got a serious injury. Mm-hmm. In fact, he's got a broken hip. Mm-hmm. All right? So many of you all out there was cheering Tua, Tua. You'd have hated his guts that he said, I'm not coming back this year. I'm going to sit out and I'm going to wait for my NFL career. Now, this young man, basically the same injury that Bo Jackson had, his career might be over, period.
Technology's advanced a whole lot.
Well, that's true.
Since 85.
But I'm going to tell you like this. It depends on the severity of the injury. Because if he's busted some arteries, he'll never be the same. Now, I'm going by what doctors have said, what I've been listening to. Now, here's my point. That boy, the millions and millions of dollars that he could have earned last year, that money will never come back. Even now, as of this morning, people are saying he was going to be a first-round draft pick. Now people are saying he might be lucky to go in the middle of the second round. So he's already lost money. So what's my point? Is that if you don't think after what happened on Saturday with Tua Tagovailoa and the millions of dollars he left because he was playing for the glory of Alabama, then you're a damn fool. This should be a cautionary tale to parents. This is the type of money that will change your life. And it might have just went down the drains on that field Saturday with Tagovailoa. It just might have. Because, people are cheering him. He's got the passing yardage in Alabama. He's the most prolific passer Alabama has ever seen. But what is he getting for it? Nothing. And that's my point. So if you're one of those people out there saying these kids don't need to be paid, just go back and look at this story. This just happened this past weekend. Because based on what a lot of people are saying, many people believe his career is over. Now, you're right. Technology has changed an awful lot. but many people, I heard interviews by doctors who don't have a dog in the hunt, that their comments were pretty somber. Okay?
Yeah.
Their comments were pretty somber. All right? Now, this ain't about whether or not he should have been playing or not in that particular moment. This is about him having some compensation before. Because now, that millions of dollars is gone. Even if he goes in the second round, he was going to get, what, $7 to $8 million as a signing bonus. He ain't going to get that now as a second rounder.
Right. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's a big deal.
So those of you out there who don't believe that these kids ought to be paid, you use what happened to Tua. I mean, think about it. This whole year, what have we been hearing from some of these teams? Tank for Tua. They wanted him that bad. He was probably going to be the number one draft pick. And then some of the other white pundits over the weekend, well, I really didn't have him as the number one pick. You're a damn lie. That's all y'all been talking about. He was going to be the number one pick. Right. And now that he's hurt, well, I didn't think he was going to be the number one pick anyway. You're a damn lie.
No, I agree.
So even if he's the number 3 pick, that's still millions of dollars that he's lost now because he was trying to play in a game that he probably should have been playing in had y'all allowed him to come and go pro. Because had he been able to go, he should have went last year.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree with you.
How many times do we see these kids, they have this great year, and then they come back next year. They get injured. They don't have so good of a year. They lose money. Where they would have been drafted first round last year, now they're going to be drafted. They'll be in the first 5. Now they might get drafted in the second round. Oh, well, see, he didn't really do what we thought he was going to do this year.
Right. Yeah.
These kids deserve to make money whenever they can make their money. And this weekend was a classic example of a young man who got tackled, a clean tackle, who saw his money disappear right before his eyes.
Good point. That's a very good point.
So, anyway, that's what's going on. Hey, look, we got to get out of here. I want to thank Ryan Davis for coming in today. Enjoyed the interview. And like I said, we'll get him back on as well as Joy Springer and some of the others who
Roger
Taylor and Lee Miller. Whoever else. You all want to come on, y'all spread the word. Hey, call Dave. We'll get you on as well. Tomorrow I'm going to try to reach out to this sister in Tampa, like I said, who sent me a message. She's sponsoring a black bus tour, 2 black businesses. And I just got to give her some love. And maybe somebody here, we hear what she's trying to do and say, hey, we want to do that too. How can we help? Will you show us?
That's what's up.
Okay? Because that's what we got to do. All right? We got to start spending money with one another. All right. So we got to get out. I hope you enjoyed the show. And again, hats off to the Tigers. Don't hold your head down, folks. Y'all did a great job. And you will be back. I have no doubt about it.
Hell to the old goal.
Hell to the black, baby. All right, Robert.
Hey, spend money on community. If you don't, nobody else will. Peace.
Is that all you got?
That's all I got, baby.
It is.
That's it, dog. After that, you don't need nothing else.
Right. Okay. All right. So notice that there is more pressure on black people to stop talking about race than there is for racists to stop being racist. System doesn't want racism to end. It just wants you to stop talking about it.